The soft glow of dawn was just beginning to creep through the nursery window as I rocked Emma, my 6-week-old daughter. The quiet moments during these early morning feedings had become my sanctuary, a peaceful bubble where nothing existed except my baby's gentle breathing and the quiet hum of the baby monitor. My name is Victoria, and at 28, I thought I had finally found my perfect life. A loving husband, a beautiful baby, and a future full of promise. What I didn't know was that my mother-in-law, Margaret, had other plans. I heard the front door open downstairs, but I wasn't alarmed. Michael, my husband, often forgot things when he left for his early hospital shifts. The sound of footsteps on the stairs didn't immediately set off warning bells either. It wasn't until I heard the distinctive click of heels. Michael's running shoes never made that sound, that my heart started to race. The nursery door flew open with such force that it bounced against the wall, startling Emma, who began to cry. Margaret stood in the doorway, her normally perfectly coiffed hair disheveled, her expensive silk blouse wrinkled. But it was her eyes that terrified me, wild, almost feral, with an intensity I'd never seen before. "I know the truth," she snarled, taking a step into the room. "That baby isn't Michael's." I clutched Emma closer to my chest, my protective instincts firing on all cylinders. "Margaret, you're not making any sense. Of course she's Michael's. Don't lie to me." Her voice rose to a shriek. "I saw the messages on your phone when you left it at our house last week. All those texts to David. Planning meetings, talking about how much you missed him." My blood ran cold. David was my brother who'd been helping me plan Michael's surprise birthday party. He was stationed overseas, and we'd been coordinating his leave to coincide with the celebration. But I couldn't tell Margaret that without ruining the surprise. "Margaret, please," I said, trying to keep my voice calm for Emma's sake. "You're jumping to conclusions. Let me explain." "Explain?" She laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. "Explain how you trapped my son? How you're passing off another man's child as his? I won't let you destroy his life." She lunged forward, her manicured hands reaching for Emma. I turned away, shielding my daughter with my body, but Margaret grabbed my hair, yanking hard. Emma's cries grew louder as I struggled to maintain my grip on her while fending off Margaret's attack. "Give her to me," Margaret demanded, her voice rising to a fever pitch. "She doesn't belong to this family." "Stop," I screamed, managing to break free and put the rocking chair between us. "You're going to hurt her." But Margaret was beyond reason. She grabbed a framed photo from the wall, one of Michael holding Emma right after she was born, and hurled it at me. I ducked, and it shattered against the wall behind me, sending glass everywhere. Through it all, the baby monitor sat on the dresser, its little red light blinking steadily, recording every second of Margaret's meltdown. I'd installed the video monitor after Emma was born, the new mother in me wanting to watch her every breath. Now it was capturing something far more sinister. "I've already called Michael," Margaret said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "He's on his way home, and when he sees those messages, when he knows what kind of woman he really married." My phone chose that moment to buzz on the dresser. Margaret snatched it up before I could reach it, her face twisting into a triumphant smile as she read the incoming message. "David again," she sneered. "Can't wait to surprise him. He's going to be so happy to see me." Well, well, more proof of your betrayal. I watched as she forwarded the message to Michael, her hands shaking with vindictive glee. What she didn't know was that she just sent my brother's message about his surprise visit to her own son. The sound of a car door slamming outside made us both freeze. Margaret's smile grew wider, more vicious. "That'll be Michael. Time for the truth to come out." Footsteps pounded up the stairs, and Michael burst into the nursery, still in his hospital scrubs. He took in the scene before him. The broken glass, his trembling wife and crying daughter, his mother standing there with my phone in her hand. "Mom," he said, his voice filled with confusion. "What are you doing here? What's going on?" "Michael," Margaret started, her voice honey-sweet now. "I have something to show you about your wife." "Before you show him anything," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Michael, look at the baby monitor." Margaret's face paled as she noticed the blinking red light for the first time. Michael stepped forward, his doctor's instincts kicking in as he checked Emma and me for injuries before turning to the monitor. "It records everything," I explained, watching Margaret's confidence crumble. "Sound and video, for the last 20 minutes. Michael picked up the monitor, his expression darkening as he rewound the footage. We all stood in tense silence, broken only by Emma's quieting whimpers as he watched his mother's attack unfold in reverse. "David is my brother," I said quietly. "He's flying in next week for your birthday. It was supposed to be a surprise." Michael's hands tightened around the monitor as he watched his mother throw the picture frame, heard her accusations, saw her grab my hair while I held our daughter. When he looked up, his face was a mask of controlled fury. "Get out," he said to Margaret, his voice ice cold. "Michael, sweetheart, you don't understand," Margaret began, reaching for his arm. "I was trying to protect you." "Protect me?" He jerked away from her touch. "By attacking my wife and endangering my daughter? By breaking into our house at dawn?" "I used my emergency key," she protested weakly. "And those messages are from her brother." Michael cut her off. "My brother-in-law, who I haven't seen since the wedding because he's been deployed. The brother who's coming to surprise me for my birthday, except you've ruined that now, too." Margaret's perfectly painted lips trembled. "But she's been so secretive, taking calls in other rooms, making plans behind your back." "Because it was a surprise party," I burst out, the stress of the morning finally overwhelming me. "We've been planning it for months. David arranged special leave, your other children were flying in, we'd booked your favorite restaurant." Michael's face softened as he looked at me, then hardened again as he turned back to his mother. "Give me your key." "What?" "Your emergency key. Give it to me, now." Margaret's hands shook as she opened her designer purse and pulled out her keyring. She removed our house key and held it out, letting it drop when neither of us moved to take it from her hand. "This isn't the first time, is it?" Michael asked, his voice quiet but intense. "The surprise visits, the questioning Victoria about everything, the comments about Emma's features not looking like mine." I watched as years of small cruelties flickered across my husband's face. Moments I told him about, incidents he dismissed as his mother being overprotective. Now, with the video evidence of her true nature burned into his mind, he was finally seeing the pattern. "I'm calling the police," he said, pulling out his phone. "No." Margaret's composed facade cracked completely. "You can't. What would people think? What about your father's position on the hospital board?" "You should have thought about that before you attacked my family," Michael replied, already dialing. "Victoria, take Emma to our room while I handle this." As I turned to leave, Margaret made one last desperate attempt. "She's turned you against me. Can't you see what she's doing to our family?" Michael's response was cut off by the 911 operator answering, but I heard him clearly describing the break-in and assault as I carried Emma upstairs. Through the baby monitor, which was still running, I could hear Margaret's protests turning to sobs as she realized the gravity of her actions. 20 minutes later, 2 police officers were taking statements in our living room. Margaret sat rigid on the edge of the sofa, her previous hysteria replaced by icy dignity as she answered their questions. The baby monitor footage had been downloaded to Michael's phone as evidence. "Mrs. Henderson," one officer said, "your daughter-in-law has the option to press charges for breaking and entering, assault, and endangering a minor. Do you understand the seriousness of these offenses?" Margaret's perfectly masqueraded eyes darted between Michael and me, searching for sympathy and finding none. "I was concerned for my son," she said stiffly. "I acted rashly, but with good intentions." "Good intentions." Michael's laugh was bitter. "You could have hurt Emma. You did hurt Victoria. All because you couldn't stand not being in control, couldn't bear that I had a life that didn't revolve around you." The officers exchanged glances, clearly used to family disputes, but perhaps not quite at this level of intensity. "Mrs. Henderson, please stand up. We're placing you under arrest." The weeks following Margaret's arrest were a blur of legal meetings and family drama. Michael's father, a respected surgeon, was mortified by the scandal. He alternated between begging us to drop the charges and apologizing profusely for his wife's behavior. Michael's siblings were divided. His sister supported us immediately after seeing the footage, while his brother accused me of orchestrating the whole thing to drive a wedge in the family. But Michael stood firm. "She could have hurt Emma," he would say whenever anyone suggested we let it go. "This isn't about family drama anymore. This is about protecting my daughter." The preliminary hearing was set for a Tuesday morning. I sat in the courthouse, Emma sleeping peacefully in her carrier, as Margaret was led in. She looked smaller somehow, her designer clothes replaced by a modest suit, her imperious bearing diminished. But when she saw us, her eyes still held that dangerous gleam. The prosecution presents evidence of premeditated harassment, the prosecutor announced, pulling up screenshots of text messages Margaret had sent to various family members over the past months. Messages questioning Emma's parentage, suggesting I was unfaithful, planting seeds of doubt about my character. Furthermore, he continued, we have video evidence from the morning of the assault. The baby monitor footage played on the courtroom screens. Watching it again made my stomach turn. Margaret's wild-eyed accusations, the violence of her actions, the sound of Emma crying. I felt Michael's hand tighten around mine as we relived that morning. When the footage ended, Margaret's attorney tried to paint it as a concerned grandmother's overwrought reaction to suspected infidelity. My client was acting out of love for her son, he argued. While her methods were extreme, her intentions were. Her intentions were to destroy my family, Michael interrupted, standing up. The judge allowed him to speak. This wasn't love. This was control. And when she felt that control slipping, she tried to hurt the people I love most. Margaret's face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks. Michael, please, she pleaded. I'm your mother. Everything I've done has been for you. No, Michael replied firmly. Everything you've done has been for yourself, and it stops now. The judge listened to both sides before delivering her decision. Margaret would face charges of breaking and entering, assault, and reckless endangerment of a minor. She was ordered to undergo psychological evaluation and treatment. Most importantly, she was served with a restraining order preventing her from coming near me, Emma, or our home. As we left the courthouse, David, who had arrived for his leave despite the ruined surprise, put his arm around my shoulders. You okay, sis? I nodded, watching Margaret being led away by her attorney. I just keep thinking about Emma. How do we explain this to her when she's older? We tell her the truth, Michael said, gently touching our daughter's cheek. That sometimes the people who should love us the most can hurt us the worst. But that doesn't mean we stop building our own happiness. 6 months later, we moved to a new house in a different neighborhood. Michael took a position at another hospital, away from his father's influence. We installed a state-of-the-art security system, though I kept the baby monitor as a reminder, not of the attack, but of how it had finally exposed the truth. Margaret underwent court-mandated therapy. Her therapist diagnosed her with narcissistic personality disorder and an unhealthy attachment to Michael. She sent letters occasionally, through her lawyer, expressing remorse and requesting contact with Emma. We filed them away, unopened. Michael's sister became a regular visitor, making up for lost time and building a healthy aunt-niece relationship with Emma. His brother eventually came around, especially after his own wife became pregnant and he understood the fierce protectiveness of parenthood. Last week, as I rocked Emma to sleep in our new nursery, Michael came in and wrapped his arms around us both. I'm sorry, he whispered, not for the first time. I should have seen it sooner, should have protected you better. I leaned back against him, watching our daughter's peaceful face. We protected each other, I replied, and now we're protecting her. That's what real family does. The baby monitor still sits on the dresser, its red light blinking steadily, but now it records only the quiet moments of our life together. Emma's first steps, her giggles as Michael reads her bedtime stories, the lullabies I sing during late-night feedings. These are the memories we're choosing to keep, the ones that prove family isn't about control or possession, but about love, trust, and protecting the peace we fought so hard to build. Sometimes I think about that morning, about Margaret's desperate attempt to destroy what she couldn't control. But then I look at our daughter, growing strong and secure in the knowledge that she is loved unconditionally, and I know we made the right choice. Some people will never understand that love doesn't need to be proven or tested. It just needs to be given freely, without strings or expectations. And that's a lesson worth any price.